is so cool. Guys, I'm in remote Michigan right now because I'm here for the Winter Moto Camp. You see all these cars coming in? That's because everyone's bringing their bikes. We're gonna do a camping trip right out here, and there is a lot of land. So we're gonna be ripping these things around. I brought my Surron and also my Namerica Prime. It's gonna be a blast of a weekend. Let's get into it.
The best way to avoid cabin fever during Michigan winters is to face the brutal cold once in a while. This year, I was thrilled to join dozens of lunatics at a remote parcel of land where we'd spend the weekend riding, socializing, and hopefully surviving a 0-degree night in tents and vehicles. You may be wondering, who came up with this idea anyhow?
Now, right next to me, I have Mark Foster, who is the mastermind behind this. Mark, why did you start this thing?
Pure insanity.
Good answer.
It goes back to just the months of waiting for warm weather to get out and go, in motorcycle weather again, and just being tired of waiting. So I'm an outdoors person. I lived in the Catskill Mountains, and I worked between New York City and upstate. And I just invited all my friends up who had the same, itch in their pants to get back on their bikes, and we're all campers, and so that was kind of the beginning of it. And so we did it a couple of different locations in the little town of Bovina, where I lived in the Catskills, and one thing led to another, and I think 3 years went by where we didn't do it. So I'm happy to say that it's been a great weekend here in Michigan for the first Michigan-based Winter Moto Camp.
Michigan, yeah, That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And right next to you, you got a pretty sweet bike you just got. So this is the first time that you're using your electric motion for a Winter Moto Camp, right? Tell me a little bit about this bike.
I was interested in an electric bike. I work at Bollinger Motors, which is a fully electric truck company. Meanwhile, I have all these two-stroke motors at home, so I wanted to dive in myself. And it's pretty fascinating just coming from the engine under you world to the electric world. I'm also an avid mountain biker. And, it really is like a blend of the two to me, because it's the weight of a motorcycle with the silence and the peace of mountain biking. So
and this one's a little bit more unique, right? Because this has actually a clutch still. And
it does. So
wouldn't expect that out of an electric dirt bike style or motocross style bike.
Right. And the reason for that is it is made from a company that primarily makes trials bike, which is very technical kind of riding, which I love riding. That's the kind of riding I was doing back in New York. So the reason for the clutching is trials riders use it to get instant torque. So when they designed this, they offered that feature. And I haven't really learned how to take advantage of that yet, because I'm still pretty new at this bike, but I just love it. I mean, it's so easy to handle, and getting through all these moguls and stuff out here, it's just, you do it all day. It's like I'm in Zen.
Well, you've been ripping it around all day. Other people have been ripping it around all day, so I can tell you the range is probably pretty decent in this cold weather, because it's been going all day without having to charge.
Absolutely.
It, right?
No, I mean, yeah, like you're saying, we got here yesterday kind of midday, and people have been riding it all day yesterday into the, all yesterday afternoon, all day today, and it's at about 65% right now.
Wow,
still.
Incredible.
I will say that when you take it on the road and just flat out it, that's really what brings the battery down. But I'm very surprised that in the with the cold, that it's actually holding up the way it is. Yeah.
We're starting to see, even with stuff like this, more and more people jump into electrification and take it in a place that is kind of unexpected.
Yeah, no, I love it, and I feel like it's been a long time coming. There's been a lot of talking about it, but just the quality of stuff that's becoming available now is really making it a game changer.
I stayed near the bonfire heat as long as possible, meeting designers, engineers, and creative campers from all over Michigan and as far away as New York City. Eventually, I retired to my Tesla for the night. Outside temperatures dropped to about 0 degrees Fahrenheit, but my EV's camp mode kept me warm until the sun came up. Our hosts Hunter and Mark got the next day started with delicious breakfast burritos made with eggs from chickens which live on the property. After a hot cup of Mark's Foster-built coffee, I was ready to take my Surron XX and Narika Prime around on a dirt track, over moguls, and riding through the fields. For me, staying upright on the snow and ice was a challenge, but it was a blast watching expert riders racing for time and jumping obstacles. While most of the bikes were gas-powered, I was surprised to see a variety of electric motorcycles there besides Mark's and mine. One camper had a Kalk Inc. race, which has a top speed of 56 miles per hour, 11 kilowatts of power, and a 2.6 kilowatt-hour battery. Another brought a tastefully modified Segway X260. Of course, a completely unexpected appearance stole the show.
I was definitely not expecting to see this old vintage motorcycle roll up. And the thing that is so neat about it is that this thing is electric. And I have Randy, aka Detroit here.
That's what they call me.
The mastermind behind this. So Randy, do tell us all you can about this really cool vintage bike.
Well, you said it best. It's vintage. So this is a 1929 Indian 4 setup. I collect a bunch of vintage motorcycles. And as EV started to take off, well, come back around, because they've been around since the late 1800s, I started thinking about what would a vintage motorcycle look with modern EV drivetrain. So I started sketching it up, and then I met this young man, Matthew, from his company Harimau. And I kind of showed him my plans, and as they say, the rest is history.
The rest is history.
So you have a 1929 Indian 4 on the bench. Is doing 130 miles an hour. We had it as fast as 70 miles an hour. The problem with that, it still has the 1929 ergonomics, so you're bouncing all over, and it gives people cognitive dissonance. Here they're looking at this nearly 100-year-old bike, and it zips past you with no sound.
In silence.
Oh, it's absolutely
how quiet it is.
Well, you gotta take it out for a ride. You know, we let folks, ride it so that, and I don't have to say this to you, I'm preaching to the choir, but in order for them to understand EV has reached its tipping point. And so this also allows the younger generation to get into vintage motorcycles as well. Because if I got modern technologies on this vintage bike, then I can also talk about internal combustion. Okay, don't beat me up. But yeah, we get to excite folks, and it's quiet. And it messes with the head in that as you throttle, you expect to hear the sound of combustion increase with speed, and that doesn't happen. So for me, it's the purest of riding. It's the absolute purest of riding.
The batteries on this thing, people, when they look at it, they still think it's an old school vintage bike until you get a little bit closer and you're like, there's quite a few wires and everything in here.
Right.
But the batteries are actually in those saddlebags, aren't they?
Yes, the batteries are in the saddlebags. We built a enclosure to hold 40 pouch batteries. These are probably 3 or 4 generations old, so no one knows it. They're in the saddlebags, and then, as you said, they start to look at the wires, but they'll see the carburetors and go, wait a minute. We took this to a show and it didn't have any of the wires on the spark plug. And they say, oh, this thing doesn't even run. And if you do this, if you hit those 2 switches there, flip those up for me. Did you hit both of them?
Yep.
So when they say it doesn't run, then we do this. And we do that and they go, oh, it does run. And so this really is to draw you in thinking I'm looking solely at an internal combustion motorcycle, and then we get to talk about EV.
It's amazing.
Thank you.
How long did it take you to put this project together?
Well, I'm going to say 10 years simply because I want to charge people a lot of money in case they want one. No, it didn't take 10 years. It took about a year. That's not including the visualization and the dreaming about it. So about a year from turning the first wrench to getting it where it's rolling out. Look me up on Detroit Antique Motorcycles on Instagram. I feel like I'm 20, give my social media a shout. My daughter says, Dad, how do you have more followers than me? And I always tell people, you're trying to be Hollywood famous, and I'm trying to be hood famous. and the hood is motorcycles. You know, I mean, think about it. We're at the Winter Moto Camp with an electric bike, so this is part of my hood as well. But it's really just to inspire people. We have 2 chargers while we're on this planet, to serve and to inspire. So we hope this really inspires folks to kind of embrace the EV world. And if they don't embrace it, it's here. You know, it's here.
Yep, I'm with you. Well, thanks for doing a quick interview with us. This is so cool.
Thank you, absolutely. Appreciate it. Thank you all for being out here and pushing the excitements of electric vehicles.
Always. Well, we had such a great time out here at Winter Moto Camp. If you guys enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing. Until next time, drive, fly, ride. Go electric.